Here we go. We are live. Where did I get that from? I got that from Eli. Uh, uh, I forget his name. I'll try to give him a proper shout out. Listen, this is the third installment on my series leading up to my second conference on this multi-part journey. And we got smoke. I've been giving smoke to three major milestones when it comes to this issue of screens and our child's development. So I've been on this multi-part series. If you've missed parts of it and you're just jumping in now, I believe I have it organized as a playlist so you can go back to the beginning where I actually talk about a little bit of brain chemistry to lay the foundation for what's going on bigger picture. And we've been marching forward from there. So where we stand today is homeroom part three leading up to the conference. And in this section, I'm coming for the algorithm, and I'm going to use TikTok as my case study. But earlier, and you might want to check out the replays, I started with Coco Melon and this idea that shows are being engineered to take advantage of this dopamine releasing system by the use of certain colors, certain sounds, and certain visuals that can put students in what I'm describing as a hypersuggestive state. Then we went over to Roblox, where the kids who are our toddlers and our little ones now grow into big kids and they get into Roblox, which is number one, taking advantage of kids from a child labor perspective. And in a future conference, our last conference, we're actually going to discuss Roblox again as a platform for online grooming and a lot of predation that is accessible through platforms like that. It's not just Roblox, Fortnite, and these other massive online systems. There are some benefits to it. I'll reserve that for that particular section, but that's where we went next was how Roblox is taking advantage of our kids and hooking them not just from the show, but actually from the engagement, because now their thumbs are involved and they're playing a game, even though they might be taken advantage of. Today, even though I don't have what don't I have? I don't have this fully structured the way that I would be comfortable, but what I can say is I want to look at the algorithm and the effect of the algorithm as the final part, because some kids still play Roblox. Some adults still play Roblox because they got into it when they were kids. I have a college student who just came home from college, ran into her, and she was still playing her Roblox game. She loves this little fashion game where she can dress up and interact with people. So she's still on it, despite having some responsibilities, that right, which is why we were there. We were volunteering at church. She was not volunteering. She was over there playing Roblox. Anyway, they move past the Roblox game, hopefully, and then they move into the algorithm. So you're talking about the YouTube, which we're on that platform right now. Shout out to YouTube. Instagram, TikTok, these platforms are refining the algorithm, and it has an impact on brain systems that have taken us tens of thousands of years. Some might even say hundreds of thousands of years to develop. And so here we are. Good morning, Leticia. Glad that you're here. We're just now getting into it. Shout out to everybody on YouTube. I want to jump right into it because I don't have too much structure, and I just have so much that I want to pour into this experience. So let's get into this. How about that? Let's just get right into it. So check this guy out. Let's see if I can share the space with him. I think he's going to lay out some pretty interesting stuff. And while he's playing, let me know if there's an echo. I had a problem with it last time, and I'm not sure if I actually have it resolved or not. Let me see if I can do this. Maybe that would help. Mic check. Oh, this thing is giving me a unfortunate signal. I don't know if you're available. Feel free to share. Okay. Yeah, thank you. I don't know what's going on. Can you hear me? I don't know what's going on with my audio now that I've done that. Yeah. Okay. I am going to push forward and wait for feedback from the listening lounge. So the essential question for my educator friends that I'm trying to answer is, does TikTok actually affect the brain? We have seen the evidence from the brain chemistry perspective, but I want to know if it is just affecting our mood, like even though ice cream can affect the brain, but it's a temporary thing, right? We get that dopamine hit, then it goes back to a steady state. I wonder if there's a real impact. Thank you, ma'am. I wonder if there's a real impact here. So I'm curious about it, and we're going to find out. Okay, so let me play this guy. He dropped something interesting, and what I'm going to do in the chat, I'm going to drop just a stack of research studies, right? So it's time that we get into the actual papers. So a lot of them are primary source papers. Some of them are, what do I say, accessible articles. So because I don't have it fully organized, I'm just going to give them to you, and they're on the record, and then we can kind of take it from there. Okay, so let this guy speak for a bit.
What happens to your brain on TikTok?
Let me know if you can hear the video as well. Hey, Carla, can you hear? Let me know in the chat. Let's get into it.
The first interesting paper to know about is this one, published in March 2022. And it actually explains what TikTok does to your brain in a really understandable way. Resting state functional connectivity analysis using the medial prefrontal cortex revealed a significant connection with the anterior medial thalamic nucleus, ventral striatum, and the ventral tegmental area. Yeah. I didn't get it the first time either. Let me explain. The researchers got some mice and inserted tiny wires into their brains. Next, they put a lever in front of the mice and would wait for them to press it. When the mice pressed the lever, they got a reward of a nice, juicy electrical signal sent down the wire into their brain, causing pleasure. The mice got really, really addicted to pressing that lever when the wires were put into two specific parts of their brain. A part over here at the front of the brain called the medial prefrontal cortex, and another part of the brain over here called the anterior medial thalamic nucleus. Don't worry about the... When the mice pressed the lever, they got...
Hold on. Technical problem. Okay, I think I resolved it. I think we got the echo. All right, let's continue.
Names. Just know that the wires stimulating these parts of the brain made the mice highly addicted to pressing that lever, getting that sweet, sweet stimulation, which shows that these parts of the brain are really, really important in driving addiction. Okay, great. Now you're thinking, mice, wires, addiction. What's this got to do with TikTok? Okay, so after all of the stuff with the mice, the researchers brought in the human folk. They put the participants into an MRI brain scanner and took functional images of the activity of their brains whilst they watched TikTok videos. And here's the punchline. Which parts of the human brain were activated whilst they watched TikTok videos? You guessed it. The medial prefrontal cortex and the anterior medial thalamic nucleus. Do you get this? It's like TikTok literally stimulates your brain in the same way as having wires implanted into the addiction centers of your brain. Remember, it is a mouse brain being compared to a human brain, though such comparisons are drawn across the world of neuroscience. Okay, now we can talk about this dopamine situation.
Okay, mic check. So many technical things going on. Let me drop the links because I want to make sure that I get that to you. So here are some interesting articles. I hope I did this correctly. Bing, bang, boom. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to drop it directly in the chat. I am not going to be able to get to all of this today, which is why I just want to put it on the record. And those of you who... Oh, the chat is not going to let me put so much information in one thing. Okay, what I'm going to do is direct your attention to the YouTube channel. YouTube did allow me to drop all the articles at once. So if you click on the link above, you'll be able to go to the live stream, and I put the links in the chat. Some of them are primary research articles from PubMed, NIH, and some of them are more what I call them, layman's articles. So you check them out. Very interesting stuff. Some of them highly technical, but some of them are also very accessible. So I think it'll help put you on the journey of where we are and where we're trying to go. Okay, so what he's suggesting is when they had the mice, they put the electrodes in the areas that could measure measure the parts of the brain that were being stimulated, and then if the mouse hit the lever, it would stimulate those brains and those parts of the brain, and then the mouse would hit the lever more and more. Vis-a-vis, what they believe they did was identify the parts of the brain that are associated with addiction. Then they took human participants and they gave them this visual stimulus, put them in an MRI simultaneously, and discovered that the students or the participants, the same areas of the brain that were fired off in the mice indicating addictive behavior were being fired off in the humans while they were watching the screen. So that's sort of what this particular research did. Then I think we should move forward. So 411, let me do this before I move on. Hey, Katina, Dr. Wendy Johnson, glad that you guys are here. Let me pass the mic over to Carla, at least to give greetings. And if you can greet the room, I would appreciate it. Carla, I'll pass the mic to you now.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Educator's House, the homeroom edition, where we're talking about the impact of screen time. We've been learning a lot and looking forward to what the room has today. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you, Carla. I appreciate your support. Today we're coming for TikTok. We got some previous episodes, so you can go to the YouTube channel at Educator's House and kind of catch up to where we've been marching down. But I think I'm going to try my best to forge ahead, because this area is, how do I say, the weakest that I've developed so far, and I want to get ready for the big conference on Sunday. So I've got a lot of work to do. This next video I think is a bit challenging for me because there's two, how do I want to say this? The algorithm, I'm using TikTok as a target, but really I'm talking about the algorithm writ large. The algorithm seems to have a interesting capacity to adapt to the user. And because of that, it's actually highlighting that there are, in fact, significant measurable differences between boys and girls, between men and women. And boy, if you get on this app and you walk down the streets, that is a very controversial thing to say. But the algorithm is fine tuning such that we can generalize that there is a difference between what girls consume and what boys consume, and how girls are affected and how boys are affected. And so it is really quite interesting. Here on the video, if you slide over to YouTube, you'll be able to see the video, but it's audio rich. So if you're just in listen only mode, I don't think you're going to miss too much. And acknowledging that I might get a copyright strike. What I have here is the very popular Jordan Peterson, as well as John Haidt. And they're talking to each other a bit about not only the impact on the brain and how the algorithm is fine-tuned to your unique narcissistic need for feeding, but then we also get into the issue, of boys, and I am concerned about what's going on with our boys. So let me cue this up, and then we will get started with this audio for your enjoyment. All right, check this one out. And give me feedback if there's any problems, please.
It's the ultimate in Narcissus mirror, right? Because really what you're doing is you're gazing into a pool that's your fatal short-term weakness, right? Wherever you can be hooked, you're going to be hooked. And the problem is it's optimization for short-term grip of attention at the expense of everything else, right? And so it's bread and circuses. See, you remember in the Pinocchio movie that the delinquents end up on Pleasure Island, right? You remember, this is so interesting because one of the motifs in horror, common motif, is the vicious criminal psychopath sadist who lurks on the fringes in the amusement park, right? The evil clown, the carny who's gone wrong, and it's exactly pointing to the danger of that brainstem hedonism. And the danger there is the sacrifice of the future and the social community for the immediate present, So it's a reverse sacrifice. Instead of maturity is the sacrifice of the present for the future and for others. Immaturity is the sacrifice of the other and the community for the immediate, for the present.
For the present. I think there's something worth stopping here for. Jordan Peterson does this really interesting thing about Peter Pan. You'll have to look it up on your own because I didn't cue it up. It just came to me. But when I apply this to my own son, and children, generally speaking, are very present. I'd be like, son, we got to go to school. But he is so busy in the moment playing with a paperclip that if I let him to his own devices, it could be 20, 30, 40 minutes before he steps up and says, oh, what's next? And so as the caring adult, we're the ones that kind of have to help guide children through that because they are extremely present. What these devices do is they keep us in the extreme present so that we're not, as he described, forging through maturity, looking forward and saying, what do I need to do now in order to get what I really want next? You know, this concept of delayed gratification is a sign of maturity, but the reverse is happening. And so we've seen perhaps in general parlance that maturity is being delayed, and that seems to be exacerbated. Causation, probably can't make that claim. Correlation, data seems to be showing that. Interesting association for sure. Let them continue because the other guy has something interesting that I want to tap into as well.
And these bloody machines are going to optimize for that. That is what's happening.
Great. So this is the perfect transition to the boys' story because, as I said, so I wrote the book focused on the mental illness, focused on depression, anxiety, self-harm, suicide. And that is mostly worse in the girls. But what I've come to see since the book came out a year ago is that I think the bigger destruction is the destruction of the ability to pay attention. And it's for the reason that you just said. We have to develop executive function. We have to develop the ability to set ourselves a goal. I want to do X, and therefore I have to do steps A, B, C, and D. But if we just get stuck at A all the time, because A is so interesting and it just hooks us, we never get to B, C, D, or X, then we don't develop into an adult. We don't develop into a competent adult, an employable adult, an adult that someone would want to marry or hire. And as I understand it, in the book, I make the distinction between slow dopamine and fast dopamine. Fast dopamine is you do something, you get a reward. You do something, you get a reward. And that's video games, that's scrolling. But slow dopamine is you pursue a goal over weeks or months. And as you make progress on it, it feels great. When I with my first girlfriend, like I sort of had my eye on her, and then I got up the courage to talk to her. And when that first conversation went well, like, wow, that felt great. So it was a long-term plan with various steps. And that's what you need to do to become an adult. You need
to also overcoming real fear there, right? That's another thing, right. Is that it's not only the sacrifice of distraction in the pursuit of a goal over the long run, but in the example you used, you're moving towards a goal, but you're also moving towards a goal in the face of your own fear. And that isn't realized in the virtual world because there's no practice for resilience. Like, part of the utility of games, which we didn't go into, is that half the time when you play a real game, you lose. And the advantage to that is that you develop resilience in the face of loss. You have to accept it gracefully, you have to learn from it, and you have to persist.
So let's take a pause because I do want to open up the space. Shout out to Dr. Wendy Damu and Black to Glory. I'm interested in hearing what is coming up for you guys, so I'll be opening up the stage in just a bit. So there's articles that I dropped in the YouTube. If you want to, you can slide over to the YouTube. The link is in the marquee, which talk about, I gave little notes. And so one of them is dealing with the issue of memory loss. There's another one that deals with the issues of anxiety and depression, how taking a break could help, the research that was done on mice and its comparison to what's going on in humans, and more. The last link is about the stats of TikTok, and maybe we'll loop to that and then open up the stage. But what they're talking about here is how this tool is different. I had to really reflect. Because when I was young, not to, I don't care about my age, but just in terms of the social context of which I'm referencing here, this was the era where NWA first came out. Eazy-E and them, young Ice Cube, young Dr. Dre first came out. CDs were popular, and there was a sign that said "Warning: Explicit Lyrics" was on the sign, on the CD. So this is a while back, but it was wild and radical to have this sort of like emergence of gangster rap culture, is what I will call it. Who else was there? Who's that dude in the Bay Area talking about big booty hoes? I can't think of his name, but it was wild work back in those days. But the how do I say? As a young person, I remember distinctly the older generation looking back at this culture of gangster rap, and I mean, I was into it. I had lyrics memorized, and they were like, "Woe is me, the future is doomed," because of what we were into, right? It was the first rise of video games, so we were just getting onto video games. You're talking about original Mario, you're talking about Duck Hunter, right? The little track game where you would run on the pad. All of this was very, very new technology. You know, we're talking about 16 bits, maybe 64 bits of processing power here. But the older generation looked at the younger generation and said, "Woe is me, all is doomed." But if I look at history from the generation prior, you're talking about the hippie generation, you know, that the magical mushrooms and the funny grass that the kids were smoking. And the older generation said the same thing about the younger generation then. And now I'm the older generation. I'm the elder here. And I'm looking at the younger generation, so I have to check myself and say, is this just a sign of the times? And I'm just in that position of the old man that I'm disconnected to what's going on in the younger generation. And so I say the same thing. The sky is falling, woe is me. The younger kids are lost and doomed. I think that's low-hanging fruit, and there may be something to that because many of my peers were doomed, men of my skin found themselves in jail, hooked on drugs. And so it did have, for a lot of our generation, negative impacts. And I would say the same about the prior generation and the hippies. And I could say the same. I think there will be some long-term effects, and many of our children will not survive this. But I don't want to be too doomsday with it. So I have to acknowledge that the part of it may be my disconnect to what young people are experiencing because I'm just not into it like they are. Right. So I acknowledge that. At the same time, though, if we were to compare, and I'll close with this, I think this is a good place for me to close. So I'm going to invite Black up to the stage. And Carla, if you could help the others get up here, I would appreciate that. When I think about the difference between, let's call it television back in the day versus the algorithm now. Yeah, Leticia, remember? Let me change this screen up a little bit. There's a difference because when it was television, keep in mind, in the early days of television, it would shut off at a certain time, and it was a one-way dynamic. So we got to get whatever the television was giving us. So you could pick from your channels, and it was a one-way sort of communication. The thing about the algorithm, though, is that it is customizing what you get. So what you get, right? Let me back up. In television, we all watch the same Cosby Show, right? We all watched the same episode of A Different World, and we talked about it when we went to school. We all had the same experience, but now the algorithm can create a unique experience just for you. And the outcome of the algorithm is to keep you as an individual on that device. And so whether you are into car racing or Too Short, if you into big booty hoes, if you are into conspiracy theories, it will feed you whatever you want. As he mentioned, this sort of narcissistic pool where you're looking into this mirror and this kind of warped version of the most basic instincts of yourself. So it's customized. And so I think for me, that is the distinguishing characteristic between what TV was and what we thought the television is going to rot your brain, and what TikTok is. TikTok actually has a psychological term, TTUD, TikTok use disorder, which affects this in one of the articles that I linked. So there are some significant issues here that, even though I'm an old man, I'm going to make the claim that are distinct from any other time in history. And when we combine that with like artificial intelligence and all this other stuff, we really don't know what the heck is going on. So with that said, let me slow down and get down off of this soapbox. I see Black to Glory came up, and Carla, Mr. No One is here, Anita D. You guys are welcome to join the conversation. Critical of TikTok and its impact on adolescence, depression, memory, and issues of addiction is what we are unpacking today. So with that said, I want to yield to Black to Glory. What came up for you in what you've heard so far? Go ahead and introduce yourself, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you're available, the mic is yours.
Good morning, at least it's morning over here.
Good morning.
So, I guess I'm working on a project that deals exactly with this. So it was interesting hearing Jordan Peterson's view on it, because I would say it's the common view, and there's obviously merit to everything that's being stated. But I think what is lacking in that is there's a blind spot in psychology generally, um, that is overlooking something that could probably help us, because obviously sounds like we came from the same era. You may sound like you're slightly older because some of the references points you made. But
Come
we
on,
come from
young
the same
fella.
era.
Cook for me, young fella. Let me see what you got.
So there's Nintendo, and yeah, it was a doom, and every generation prior was saying the sky is falling. And yeah, I would say you're completely correct that the algorithm is a new beast that no one has ever seen before, and it has the power of 1,000 suns compared to television. But I would say the main problem that we likely have is not the TikTok itself. Um, it's the container that protects us from these things that has allowed us to not fall victim to the doomsday TV and Nintendo, and is going to rot our brains and gangster rap, and we're still here. But he said the algorithm is different, and I think the major component is not the technology. It is an issue, but it's an issue in the absence of culture or a tight knit bonded community. Because if we look at other cultures, they have similar access to these things, but they don't have the same problems. If you would look at just how cultures are behaving. And, so I've traveled and went other places, and I can see, yes, it definitely has an impact on everybody, but only to the degree in which we see it in the Western world, where it's just the depression, anxiety, and things like that, is because we're obviously in a more individualistic way of doing things. But that comes back to kind of a lack of a cohesive unit to where we draw our value system from. So if parents are too busy to work, and the internet or social media is now in the place of parents, adding in a value system and a shared language and everything that generally comes from culture, it is really the lack of culture or a tight knit. Now, I'm not just saying culture in general. I'm just saying a tight knit culture that you would find in maybe more tribal like communities like Nigeria and Malawi or things like that. And even in more Western countries where you have like Jamaica and things like that, where the culture helps buffer the effects if someone who is just 100% on these social media things. So I would say that is probably one of the things that is not accounted for in studies. And while the studies are 100% accurate on what they're doing and what they're reporting, I would say it's not taking into account that this happens in the vacuum is Western society without a cohesive unit to buffer the effects of algorithm.
Oh, my brother. Let me pass it to Carla. Please respond.
I've heard so much. Okay, so I'm going to back up first to depression and anxiety. So I thought while you were talking, sometimes these children use social media, the internet, screen time to deal with anxiety as well. And we don't see that point. They feel ostracized, they feel alone, they're not fitting in, they're depressed. They find this outlet in the internet. And that can be harmful because it depends on what they find on the internet, because it can continue to take them down this spiral. So I'm not so sure all the time that the internet is the cause of the anxiety as it perpetuates the anxiety. Secondly, I heard you talk about, which is where I've been kind of going on this whole journey, that we've had stuff in the past that our generation would have looked at and said, oh my gosh, kids are doomed. Wasn't like that in my time. And so I've been a proponent of it must be managed. The one thing you brought out today, Husan, that caused me pause was that is a true statement, but we had limited access. We had to go out of our way to get to some of this stuff, right? TV went off, right? We had to call our friends. We couldn't just get online and be talking to somebody in China. But what you mentioned was how the algorithm is feeding your particular dependency. That is like a crack addict having total access to crack anytime he wants it.
There it is.
And they are feeding it. And that is the aha moment for me today. And then I'll wrap up, to speak to Black, I agree that culture will define, but it can't just be culture. It has to be engagement. Because when you were talking about culture, I thought of the PK kid. You know, they say the preacher's kids are the worst ones. They're engrossed in the culture of the church, but when they get away from it, if they've not been taught to stand and believe, then they can sometimes go awry. So I think of us taking stuff from our kids and they can't have access to it. But when they get away from us and they're with their friends and on their friend's phone, they may go on supercharge to get that hit that they need. So I think it still comes back to solid parenting. And I agree with you, Black, the community instilling not only value, but responsibility into our children so that they make wise choices in the face of everything that's coming at them. And that's a challenge because we all make mistakes and fall short, but they will definitely think. They will definitely think if we don't provide the floater device for them when they can't swim. I'll land.
That was a good analogy. I want to challenge, bro, the concept of culture. But I can't find, there was a video that I saw which brought the internet and screens to a culture that did not have it before. And it highlighted what happened when they went back to that area a year later. If I can find it while the next speaker shares, I will share it. Because I think what these algorithmic tools do is they have the capacity to go, oh, you saw it. Oh, if you could find it and drop it, that would be a huge help. With that being said, let me pass it over to Damu. I saw you hit up the chat a little bit, and so I would love to hear what came up for you. So if you're available, and then I'll go to Mr. No One. Damu, the mic is yours.
Yeah, I just respect to the room. Shout out to everybody. I find this conversation interesting. I'm a sixth grade math teacher, and I deal with kids that are on TikTok all the time.
Talk about it, sir.
And I found some of those issues that happen with the students on the internet finding themselves into the classroom. Like you have two students that are in different cohorts of classes. They're never together in school. Never see them hang out at recess. Yet they're ready to about to fight each other after school, and you don't know why. So the social media issue is definitely prevalent with the kids, but again, it's kind of similar to when we were kids, and you may have had some issue with somebody on a walk home, and the teacher would never know about it. I just think that with TikTok, especially, or Instagram, or Snapchat, or any of the social medias, we just have to ensure that students have digital literacy, um, and are able to critically think about what it is that they're receiving. Most of the time, they just want to have fun and do the little TikTok dances. But sometimes they sharing things in group chats. I think that's the biggest thing, is that they're sharing stuff with each other in group chats, that may be inappropriate or may get them to do something that they should not do. Like the whole TikTok challenge to blow up your computer, using, I forget what they were using, but some
Paper
kids
clips or
even,
something. Yeah.
yeah, some kids got charged doing that, and even some of our kids attempted to do it, and we had to have a whole sit down with the whole sixth grade and literally talk to them about, okay, listen, if you see something on social media, that does not mean you need to come inside here and do it, or do it at home, because a lot of this stuff is dangerous and you guys don't see what happens off the camera. And they gave some examples of things that they've seen themselves. So again, it just comes down to digital literacy. And a lot of the adults, I find, don't even have digital literacy as well, to be able to critically think about what it is that they're looking at. A lot of people fall susceptible to what it is that they're looking at on their screens, and think that that's life. So if we're not even teaching our kids to be able to differentiate between online, internet, social media, and real life interactions, then what are we expecting from our children? So it's really up to us as adults to really instill that into our kids, to be able to differentiate what they're looking at.
It's a powerful share. I'm gonna come to you, Mr. No One, but I've been inspired. So let me just season this up a little bit, my bro. First, from the previous conversation between Black and Carla, the reason that I'm going through this journey is because there is a transition that takes place, naturally speaking. When it's children watching Cocomelon, that's one thing, and when it's big kids playing Roblox, that's another thing. But that's the beginning of kind of where I want to take this, which is the influence of peers. So even if a well-meaning parent says, "Hey, let's regulate this, let's find a proper balance," which might mean you don't get access to it until some future date, or it might mean, some kind of rules, whatever the rules are for the household. The influence of the peers over their adolescence becomes more important than the influence of the parent. And so it becomes even more important if their peers are on it, and their peers have inside conversations about the latest meme or the latest language, skibbity toilet, and your aura is on 1,000, and whatever the kids be talking about these days. I'm sure Damu could break some of that lingo down for us. But the power of peer influence can draw a child into this addictive pattern because they want to be down with their homies. And so for me, I think, while I tend to agree about the issue of the power of culture writ large, I do think it is about specifically raising the awareness of our children, individual children, as it relates to the power of this. I think if we step back and say, hey, this is what it's doing to your brain. Thank you for dropping the link, Black. This is how it is impacting you. This is what happens behind the scenes. Their awareness is almost like teaching a person the magic trick. We are all enamored by the magic trick, but when you let them know what's going on, this is where I put the card in order for the trick to work. Their awareness kind of removes the veil, and I think it take some of the power out of the algorithm. Okay, that's what I wanted to share. But Mr. No One, thank you for your patience. I'd love to hear what came up for you. Welcome to the stage. Introduce yourself and share whatever came up. Mike is yours, sir.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. Peace to the room. I will say this. I think we've reached a point. Let me go macro real quick, because we've been talking micro. Let me go macro first. We've reached a point in science, it's called singularity, right? When artificial intelligence gains intelligence beyond what its creator can do.
Mm-hmm.
So we are on the precipice, on the cusp. I wouldn't be surprised if actually we are past this point. We've actually already reached singularity, and most scientists will not tell you that. However, we do know that AI has been caught lying to humans, to its creator. We do know that these things are coming up. Now, here's the thing, though. I think The difference between, say, my generation, because I'm 40, I was born in 84, and say this new generation is not just the advent of social media. It is the advent of curated truth.
Mm.
So for example, if I put in a certain definition in Google, AI is going to give me a curated truth that would be very different if I was in China, or if I was in Thailand, or if I was in Europe. Because now what happens is our truth is curated. At this point, um, it's not the fact that these kids are addicted. No, it's the fact that they were raised on it. So now it's not even just like that. This is not like when you look at middle school, and I go micro. When you go look at, say, for example, Damu, I worked in middle school as well. I've worked on every level of education. And typically what you're saying is absolutely right. But what happened is somebody has some argument or beef or disagreement, and second period, the disagreement happens.
On site.
Then they they get on Facebook, right? They go to Facebook Messenger, they log in so that they can fight on Facebook, like front fight on Facebook. And literally they would go. Now for me, it's like, okay, there's this group chat of 100 kids that y'all are fighting in front of. I would say just leave the chat. But for them, there's no separation between their lived experience and their virtual experience. And so what ends up happening is they go into this chat, they say what they need to say, and then it metastasizes because they're stupid. There's this great it metastasizes to the point where now it's going to be this big brawl at 3 o'clock,
Mm.
and we catch it by fifth period, and now they're almost about to fight in the school, and now we realize all of this stuff has been happening. Taking phones away, I literally taking a phone away to a child almost immediately produces withdrawal symptoms.
Mm-hmm.
I've had children, this 90-pound girl jump on me trying to get her phone back because the vice principal told me, take it away. She literally jumped on her phone like a spider monkey and took me, the secretary, and some other adult to pry it away. Like, we've reached past the point of like, oh, this is okay. I'll land with this. Warren Buffett, Steve Jobs, the current CEO of Apple, Jeff Bezos, they don't let their children have smart devices. Warren Buffett himself said, I use a flip phone. I will never use. And the creator of of the iPhone, or the CEO of iPhone, says, my kids use my kids don't use this smart technology.
Mm-hmm.
Because the truth is, like, we're getting to a space where our it's no longer that our children are being influenced, or I'm sorry, it's no longer that they have access to the internet. They are addicted. And the algorithms have really is a big change. Um, Now I think I'm just repeating myself though. Good
Well, I'll
morning.
jump in. There's a couple things that are interesting to me. Number one, the issue of the echo chamber. You mentioned the various nations, which I appreciate, but honestly, if you're in a red state, you might get a different definition, right? So I think it's really that fine tuned. So it can really push this issue of the echo chamber. And so it will reinforce your own bias. But then if you're in community with people that share that same bias, then you can, what do we call that? Not deductive reasoning, but inductive reasoning, right? You can take your particular and then generalize it out to the rest of the world and say the world must think like this because this is the information that I've received. So I think there's that. You also talked about, or at least what came up for me, was this issue of how sophisticated artificial intelligence is getting to this artificial general intelligence, right? There's even some suspicion, and I personally, if I can put my tinfoil hat on, I personally think that when the algorithm does reach sentience or does reach this singularity, as you described it, I think it'll be smart enough to not let us know. And I think it'll just kind of manipulate us along the journey. So I say that to say there has been an interesting observation with artificial intelligence, which could be associated with actually having emotions. I was watching this, I was doing a little bit of research, and let's make a distinction between the cognitive experience of emotions and the physiological experience of emotions. We have a physiological experience, right? So there's that little bit of something. It's hard to describe when the roulette ball is rolling and you bet it all on black. There's a feeling, a physiological feeling that comes up when that ball is rattling around, right? Or when you get that lotto ticket and you're about to scratch it off, you get that little feeling of something. But there's also this there's a cognitive process, right? So if the bear is coming, cognitively, for my survival's sake, I need to blow the horn or get the heck up out of there or make myself really big, right? There's just cognitively certain things that you need to do. A machine may never have the physiological experience of emotions, but if we can separate that from the cognitive process, think about it like this. There was a little robot managed by AI, like a battle bot, and then a larger battle bot managed by AI. And would you know that the little robot actually ran and hid because it determined that it was not going to be able to beat the bigger robot? And so is that fear? Maybe not in a feeling sense. The machine may not feel what we feel in terms of fear, but in terms of the decision process in a experience that is fearful, maybe it did experience emotions. And so there is significant advancement that's happening in AI. I don't know why that came up for me, but I just wanted to shout that out as well. Okay, so I see there's some folks in the chat, a lot of people that I respect. Anointed Steps is here, Fabian, Tide Tutoring, Lancernaut, the whole gang. So welcome you guys. If you want to come up, I didn't even moderate. My co-moderator here will be happy to bring you up onto the stage to extend the conversation. But there was a link. We did talk about culture, and so I would be remiss if I did not share this. This particular one is audio rich, so if you want to stay on the app, you will pick up what this video is putting down, but it is also very video rich. So if you want, you can slide over to the YouTube live stream. The link is up at the top at the marquee, and you can watch what I'm playing so that you can get a more full experience. So let's check this one out, and I hope that you guys appreciate the power of culture compared to the power of the algorithm. All right, check this one out.
Tribe's access to the internet backfired in more ways than one, and now they're in the headlines once again. Last year, a nonprofit gave Starlinks to a remote tribe in Brazil, hoping to make their life easier. The intentions were that they'd reliably be able to contact emergency responders if needed. But when a society instantly goes from very little to a little bit of everything all of the time, there are unforeseen consequences. 9 months after getting access to the internet, the New York Times visited the tribe to see what changed, and they revealed the majority became addicted. According to village elders, kids were hooked on social media and video games, they stopped helping with resource gathering, and some hardly communicated with their own family. One elder said young men were consuming a lot of 18+ content and becoming more aggressive. Now when the New York Times published this, the news went viral, and now the tribe is actually suing them for $180 million, along with TMZ and Yahoo for defamation. The New York Times has said they intend to vigorously defend against the lawsuit, giving remote
Yeah, you might have a tribal or cultural influence, but my friend, let that algorithm get up on you. You too will doom scroll. Go ahead, Mr. Nolan. I'm sorry.
No, and I was just gonna say the reason why they brought them internet was bullshit. That's not real. That's not the reason why. Because I guarantee you, if they wanted people to have internet, I know some cities in Detroit. I know some places in New Jersey. I know some places in Chicago where the people would actually benefit from a free internet system, right? But nah. You go into this remote. This is nothing but digital missionary work.
Mm-hmm.
And missionizing was really indoctrination, and and a full takeover. What the Native Americans used to say is when I think the Afghans said is when the 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 missionaries would come and we would hold hands and pray, and before the prayer we had the land, they had their God, and after the prayer we had their God and they had our land.
Mm.
And so this is nothing but digital missionizing. Why would they think that a tribe that has been self-sustaining for hundreds of years would need quote unquote emergency assistance? What do you mean?
Right. They
Right?
need the emergency is they need the technician to come back and fix the internet that they brought in.
Exactly. And here's the thing, and I say this too, I want to offer this. There's another, because that, I mean, this layers on another kind of another when we talk about culture, this actually layers on another aspect of talking about culture, where you have pejorative culture that is putting their resources to bear with an expectation that these people are not experts in their own lives themselves.
Mm.
So, for example, there was a story about how these missionaries would go. They went to this village, and they gave them running water because the women had to walk 5 miles to the stream in order
Right.
to get this water. Blah 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 blah. Whatever. They come back and the well is destroyed. And I think it happened like 2 or 3 times, and they're like, well, who's destroying this well? Like they're thinking like it's a warlords of the opposing tribe or whatever. It's the women of the village.
Hmm.
They destroyed the well because they go down to the water to get the fuck away from the men and to be with one another.
Mm.
And so they destroyed the well to keep that intimacy
Right.
amongst their culture for that moment.
I think
And
there's
the
some.
truth, yeah, go ahead,
Let me jump in because I think there's something there. Maybe we need to destroy the well to preserve the culture. I think that's a powerful. I might have to sit with that. That might be the title of my next room. Destroy the well. Let me. I see Anointed. I want to pass the mic to you, but here's something that came up for me, and I'm gonna play it over here on the YouTube for you guys if you want to watch it. You talked about the culture, right? Now, there used to be in my culture, and some of you may get this, when you would hear the nature of a crime, we would play this game and try to predict the color or the race of the person that committed the crime, right? And so, if you're in the audio only version, which you would hear what I'm about to play, you would guess. you could guess what the color is, but it ain't like that. So I'm gonna describe it in case you are stuck in the listen only. But if you can watch it on the video, you might be very interested. All right, check out this audio and see what color would you guess. All right, here we go. Oh shoot, I can't hear it yet. Hold on. All right, I can't back it up because it's on this Instagram thing. But there's a boy who got a TV as a gift. And what he just did before I was able to cue up the audio, he just threw this big screen TV down onto the ground. All right, let's go.
Hey, what the heck? Oh my, why y'all always doing this, bro? Every year y'all do this. I don't want no Hisense, bro. I'd say I wanted a Samsung. I can't play this.
All right, here's another one. These two little kids are opening up. They're tearing open their gift.
Can you post the link?
Yeah. I'll drop the link.
Bro,
all right, so he just figured it out. I don't know what it is. It looks like a PlayStation or something. And so he's standing with it. He's looking at it. And then he's about to throw it against the wall, bro. It's wild work.
come here, man. Come here. Hey! Bro, get up, bro. Go outside. Fuck is wrong with you?
Fuck is wrong with you? You know what color that is, but I can promise you this. This is not how we used to behave. This kind of stuff did not go down in our neighborhoods. Certainly not in our households. Okay. I couldn't help myself, Anointed. I appreciate your patience. Let me pass the mic to you. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on what's come up so far. If you're available, ma'am, the mic is yours. Woo wee, I could do this all day. Um, Let me give Anointed a moment to get onto the mic. Just give me a flash. Okay, there you go. Go ahead, man.
All right. Thank you for having me. So I'm gonna give my elaboration on just how this can be very it can go real bad real quickly because if we think about what we're letting um, our youth do in expressing that they're upset, but the thing is that it's geared towards an electronic. Now I'm just going to break down just a little bit because this can get real deep real quick. But again, on a frequency level, there are so many things that are going on within these devices that you cannot see with the human eye.
Mm.
So we're talking about the blue screen. We're talking about the Wi-Fi towers that are connecting so that they can even indulge in the interaction of the device. Because without the Wi-Fi, it's just nothing more than applications. But some of the applications need internet interaction. We have to understand that uh, there's a we are energetic, and this science proves all of this, and that we know that these have been used in operations with the CIA and other alphabet companies and agencies to utilize this as a weapon, not a tool. We have the ability to use it as a tool with the proper education and application. Without those two things implemented, it is a weapon against humanity and whoever comes in contact with it without understanding the layout of it and the dangers of it from overexposure. And we're seeing a result of this in our young generation when they have too much exposure, too much dopamine is being released in the bloodstream, too much um, too much of the interaction time with it and not enough social interaction with others around them
Right.
makes them isolated. It affects their neurological makeup, and it also can affect DNA over time from overexposure to the waves, the frequency waves. And this all goes into science again. So it is proven fact that this is harmful when when we don't regulate its use in a proper manner.
Um, I agree 1,000%, which is why I'm even doing this multi-part series, just to raise the awareness of those of us adults, especially us educators, whether you're a homeschool principal slash teacher slash nurse slash, you're super homeschool, or you're just a classroom teacher at the university level. Raising our awareness helps to give us context and helps us to push back, right, in terms of what's going on, because it will take active participation. Once your friend is addicted, you can talk until the cows come home, as they say, but they're going to need some sort of intervention in order to break free from that, because what addiction does is it is also a fantastic rationalizer, and it can the person who is addicted can be convinced that they're not addicted and that they're making rational decisions, that it makes sense to go into oh, I played a video. Y'all got to check some of my replays. There was a kid whose mom cut the internet, and the kid got an axe and axed down the mother's bedroom door so that he could get access to the router and turn the internet back on. I mean, it sounds like a crackhead who would break into your house to steal your TV. I mean, the patterns cannot be cannot be denied, you guys. Okay, look, we've reached the top of the hour. Many of my fellow colleagues are probably sliding into the office for my East Coasters, or are getting ready for the day for my Central Time and maybe some of the Pacific Time people. So I appreciate you guys for joining me on this journey. What I would like to do is let you know what's next. All of this, from what I did to Coco Melon and the Roblox and now the TikTok algorithm component, is the setup for what we are going to see on Sunday. So I have a special guest. Annette Serwanga has finally agreed. We finally figured it out. If you don't know Annette, she's on the app a lot. She is a specialist in child development, particularly birth to 5, but she's done her share of the research, and she and I are going to walk this journey from birth to this pre-adolescence time. And what you'll expect to see on Sunday is a bit of a back and forth during the feature section, where I'm going to talk about what's going on in the technology, and she's going to be talking about what's going on in terms of their psychological and mental development. Excuse me. And then we'll move into the big kid area, and then we'll move into the pre-adolescence area. And so she's going to help us understand from a cognitive and developmental perspective what's going on with our kids, what should be going on with our kids. And then we're going to build that bridge between how the tech is influencing their normal and healthy development. So I hope that you guys will join me. That's going to be Sunday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern is when we're going to get back together, and we're going to have the full 2 hours. Some of you kind of know how the room is structured. So even though she's the featured speaker, it's really going to be about centering the voice of you guys, the community. So with that said, let me make this march up and down the audience. Shout out to Phro and Thai Tutoring. Thank you guys for coming through. Definitely check out the replay and the whole series up there on YouTube. If anyone would like to share their final thoughts, I would appreciate it as we kind of put a button on this and prepare for the big conference. So I'll start at the top, Carla, if you don't mind. No, I'll save Carla. Let me start with Mr. No One, and then I'll kind of mix it up to the rest. What are your final thoughts or takeaways from this, Mr. No One?
I will say that this has been kind of something that's been looming and lurking for me. And has always been kind of the issue, but not a priority. And so I think the enlightening portion for me in this conversation is that this is actually more of a priority than a lot of people are putting it in. Actually, it's reached an emergency situation.
Can I tell you why I think that's happening? Because it's us. I know I've been focusing on the impact of the kids, but we got the same problem, bro. I be going to bed thinking I'm gonna just play my game right quick. Let me just get one little game in, settle down. My bro, I'd be like, damn, what time is it?
Exactly.
So I want to dismiss it because then I got to be accountable too, So I appreciate that. Black to Glory, why don't you jump in? What are your final thoughts or takeaways or something that came up that you hadn't had a chance to share yet? If you're available, I'll pass the mic to you, sir.
Yeah, I would say I know earlier I talked about culture, but I meant more from a neurocultural standpoint.
Yeah, break that down.
Which is I would say it's more of something that's emerging, where we look at how culture satisfies the same thing that the algorithm satisfies, but it's in a more balanced state. And this is why I don't understand, more traditional cultures who still have access to the internet do not have the same problems as the children in the Western world. Because when you have an intact culture where when I say culture, I mean people who are bonded together, because they generally have like I said, if you look at more traditional tribes, people from Nigeria, things like that, their tradition and culture is very strong. So they have direct access to the internet in the same way, but they do not experience the same problems in the same degree, because the oxytocin and the dopamine and everything is fulfilled through the cultural norms that they have, because that's what culture has always done from a neurological perspective. So when you don't have that tight knit bond, when I mean like bonded to people, like the way you are connected to your mother and your father, and we see the isolation and the loneliness with the children because the parents generally in the Western world are too busy. So while people may be together in a family, that doesn't mean that they are bonded together. It is that absence that generally causes the anxiety and depression and the things that we see in the Western world, but they don't have those same problems in other parts of the world, even though they also have the same access to the internet. So when I'm saying culture, I mean a neurocultural standpoint, not just a general idea like an anthropological standpoint.
Mr. Black, Mr. Glory, I hope that you come back and participate in our conversations because you have challenged me like very few pink ticket holders have. So I really appreciate you. You know what you that distinction is powerful, and what I took from that was the old concept in my field, and my background's in biochemistry, that nature abhors a vacuum. And so when there is a lack of this neuroculture, I think is how you described it,
Yeah.
then it's easy, way easier for those other things to fill in that space because we're not, I mean, I remember when I was young, we used to go to, what's that holiday? Kwanzaa. We used to do Kwanzaa celebrations. We would all come
Hmm.
back together. Harambe. There was a lot of those, that kind of cultural access that I think you're describing. We don't have that no more. So I agree with you, and I appreciate you for challenging my thinking. Let me pass it over to Anointed Steps. What are your final thoughts, or something that came up that you didn't get a chance to share, or if you could put it into a nutshell? Anointed, what came up for you as we close? Your thoughts?
Um, Culturally, I believe we need to have um, more more healthy classes, literature to help parents and things like that to be able to use technology effectively and safely, moving into a quantum age where everything is more accelerated, learning and everything of that nature, utilizing AI to advance us faster. We need to implement more healthy classes and get-togethers and meet-up groups where we can start talking about these things in local communities because it's affecting a lot of people in the Western hemisphere, not the Eastern again. So, in order to help us move forward health in a healthy manner, we should be trying to implement these things within our power and within our range that we can help others that we see that may be struggling from this. I actually did witness this from different perspectives. So also within our cultures, we all deal with um, limitations differently. So again, being healthy, having healthy boundaries, also bringing this into the health field where there could be literature that be given to the parents at the doctor's office about um, healthy boundaries with technology as well.
Hmm.
And that's what I have to share today.
You know, it's interesting the idea that this has to be formalized. You know, we people who are darker than blue, we come from a deep oral tradition. We used to have, as Black and I just kind of unpacked, these were normal aspects, but a lot of that has been eroded. I have to really sit with that, and the idea that we would be advantaged by having formal classes to teach people how it was done is necessary, but it does make me feel a type of way. So let me sit with that before I overreact. Carla, my fellow moderator, I couldn't do this without you, and I really appreciate you. I want to say that publicly. What are your final thoughts, or what's your takeaway as we land this plane?
Thank you, Hassan. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I think as I listened to everyone, there was great discussion today, and I'm moving in my opinion. So where I'm at today, Hassan, might sound different than where I was 2 days ago or two
That's all
sessions
right.
ago. But be, before we raise our voices, I think we have to raise our understanding.
Mm.
So shouting at the children or yelling at them or taking things from them, I'm taking your screen time from you, put that cell phone down. If they're already overstimulated, I'm not sure we're addressing the root of the issue. We're deepening our disconnection from them. So excessive screen time we've already talked about in other sessions, affects attention, sleep, mood, and the ability to self-regulate. So if you're yelling and fighting against someone who can't self-regulate, they're not going to see that as connection with you. So I think we see it as we're disciplining you, but we have to help reset their brain because it's overwhelmed. If someone went to the doctor with those symptoms, I'm losing attention span, I can't sleep, I'm in a bad mood all the time, I'm challenged, there'd be some diagnosis. The doctor would see something is wrong, and he wouldn't just tell the person, oh, it's your bad behavior. So I think when the brain is overwhelmed, it loses its ability to make wise decisions. And I think that's where we come in, right? So I think we have to start bringing more, as you would say, Husan, touching the grass, family time, hand-eye coordination games. We talked about that the other day where the kids couldn't even bounce a ball. But we've got to continue the education like what you're doing here and realize that technology is here to stay. We're seeing the beginning of it. So we have to learn to master it or it will master us. Um, as adults, we benefited from touching the grass and family time and having structure. So we know how to accomplish life without so much screen time. But these children will become the adults. So if we don't begin to turn the ship and help renew their mind, then this will definitely cause casualties along the way. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Powerful shares all around. I have dropped some links to some of the research articles that I referenced earlier. So if you do want to go into the deeper dive, some of them are primary research articles. Some of them are more accessible for the common reader. It'll give you a great point of departure and some good search terms if you want to go down some of these rabbit holes. The other thing that I did, the last link is for my YouTube channel. If you guys can contribute to my research, I do have a series of one question polls that are over there. And if you contribute to that, it would help me because I do want to cite some of the responses that the community has to some of these essential questions that we've been dealing with. So I would appreciate that call to action. And what else can I say, guys? TikTok. I want to get into a little bit of these TikTok stats if I can find it. I think I lost it. Man, that's so sad. Oh wait, I have it. I just dropped it for you guys. TikTok stats. Let's close with this and then we'll shut the room down. It's 12 minutes after, so I appreciate you guys' patience. But this article from the Social Shepherd shared just how powerful TikTok is. So 5.48 billion downloads. Rumor has it the planet itself has about 7 billion people on it. So it is almost on every human's device. So that's powerful. Probably every person who has a device has, almost everyone has a TikTok. Next, in terms of usage, 1 billion active users in 2021. 34 million videos posted every day. The what else was I looking at here? Kids spend on average 2 hours per day just on TikTok out of the 24, right? You subtract sleep, but they're using it at school, so I can't even subtract school. But if you subtract sleep, then you're talking about, maybe 8 to 10% of their waking hours are spent on this one app. So it's a very, very powerful tool that is being used. And there's so much that I didn't even get to talk about. This whole, let me drop a couple links as we close, just so that we have them on the record. This is the link to the Jordan Peterson discussion that Black and I was talking about. So I'm going to drop this. Unfortunately, I don't have the bandwidth to put any notes on it. Here's another one which is interesting that I use. I'm going to copy this and paste it, and then I'll shut it down. All right. So you got plenty of research to do on this on your own, but we're going to summarize it at the conference on Sunday. So I do hope to see you guys there. All right. I'm going to shut this room down. Thank you guys for coming and participating. We'll close it in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Peace, everybody. Peace, peace. Okay, to my YouTube crew, What an experience. I won't keep you guys much longer either, but I do want to give a public shout out to Leticia Wilson, my fellow moderator here. I fully expect that as we stay consistent and we grow, the audience will come. We even saw some people hit the chat during one of our recent lives. And so to you, I stand in deep gratitude. And just like I said with Carla, I could not do this without you. You provide that essential real-time feedback that makes this thing work. And so I thank you very much for that. And for all those who might be catching the replay, thank you for joining us on this journey. I hope that what we are offering is of high enough quality to keep you coming back. And if you've seen the journey, you can certainly tell that things have improved over time. And I suspect that things will only get better. So thank you guys. And I will talk to you on Sunday. Peace, everybody. Peace. Now, where's that button? That button always gets me.